Alright, so let's talk briefly about how lead works. So we have our T-72 with laser rangefinder. We want to hit a distant target. We place the red ring on the target, that's the laser rangefinder aim point. We laze and let the reticle adjust. We elevate, and it's a hit. Why does it hit? Because by elevating the sight to match the reticle drop, we have super elevated the gun. Super elevation is when the gun is aimed higher than your targeting reticle. You can't really tell looking at the vehicle because the angle involved is so small, but the gun barrel is looking at a higher angle than the tip of the chevron there. And in this sight it's very obvious how far it's gone up, because if you reset the range, the reticle moves back to center, and that distance that it's moved is how far the gun elevated. That corresponds to the ballistic drop of the loaded ammunition. But there's a problem with this setup. If I take a moving target, I laze it, I match the reticle, and I fire. What happened? Why did that shot hit so far behind the target? Well, it's because the target moved out of the way. I was firing in a straight line at the place where the target was when I pulled the trigger, and the gun is aimed in that direction. There was no compensation going on. So in this tank, in order to hit the target, you'd have to look ahead a little bit. You have to match up the correct mark based on how fast it's going, and then you hit the target. Now, technological innovations try to take care of this problem. So let's look at the Abrams. In the Abrams, the super elevation works the same way. You've got automatic elevation to deal with the distant target after you laze. But for a moving target, if you get a track on the target and then laze, it's shifted now. Now let's change speed, so it threw it off. Let's go with this one. Now the whole turret is looking ahead of the target by a little bit, and the reticle has moved back to stay on the target. And I get a hit when I fire. This system, it's very obvious what it's doing because it cannot conceal the horizontal offset. The gunsight has no ability to turn in the turret, so the reticle has to shift to make up for the whole turret looking ahead of the target. I want to make clear what's happening. If I keep this range, it's valid, it's all fine, and I manually aim ahead of the target, I will still hit. Let's wait for it to come back. I'm not activating lead this time. I'm just aiming ahead of the target myself. And I hit. Doing that, I made the tank work essentially like the T-72. No lead, I just lazed and fired, and it's only doing super elevation. If I want it to compensate lead for me, I have to track the target and then activate the lead by lazing. So I line up, I press E, now it's doing lead. It's looking ahead by that exact amount that it needs to. If you were to see a mark on the dead center of the screen right now, it would be aimed ahead of the target. But the reticle is drifting back. If I let go of my palm switch, my aim control, it will reset to the center and stay there. If I follow the target and I change speed once I've lazed and activated lead, that reticle drift will change amount. See, as I move the turret faster and slower, the look ahead amount changes and the reticle drifts back to compensate. You don't want to be doing this while you're trying to line up on the target. you want to line up on the target first, get it glued to the center, not changing, then laze and fire. Because you will have a much easier time lining up your shot if you're not fighting this stuff the whole time. You want to have your lead dumped, you want to be moving with everything locked to the center, and then once you're ready to laze and fire, you do that. Now let's talk about the M60. The M60 was a stopgap vehicle. The Abrams wasn't ready yet, and they wanted to put some of the innovations from its fire control system onto the M60A1 platform. So in the M60A3, it works exactly the same way in practice. You track steadily, you laze, you fire. But the sight is constructed much differently from the Abrams. It's kind of cobbled onto the tank. So if I were to get a track and laze, and then decide to aim somewhere else, notice my reticle has stayed where it moved when I lazed. If I aim at this target, let's pick a similar range target. If I aim at this target and fire, what happened? It's going for the center of the scope because I haven't dumped my lead yet. I'm not actually aiming where I think I am. The reticle is still shifted from last time I lazed because I haven't let go of the palm switch yet. If I let go, now the turret and the reticle are lined up. And if I fire, I hit. Of course I could have lazed again to get a more precise range, but it was close enough. So the trick with the M60 is that if you mess up your track, you need to dump and relaze. So let's say I'm sliding my reticle across this target when I laze. My lead is too high. I need to redo that to get it centered on the target and not moving. Laze, fire. But the procedure is the same for both of these American tanks. You track steadily for a second and a half, something like that. You laze, you fire. I think the Abrams needs less time than the M60 to track. Now let's talk about the Soviet version. This system came out before the American one, and it has a feature that the other system does not, which is that it hides the reticle movement from you. So if I track and laze, nothing really shifted. I'm still just tracking easily. The reason this is the case is because this tank is doing the exact same thing that the Abrams is, but it's turning the whole gun sight back the other way instead of just sliding the reticle. So I don't even have to see the movement happening. I can just focus on keeping the aim point on the target, and I'll score a hit. If we are really zoomed out, we can actually watch this happening. You see the gun barrel in the bottom of the screen? As I pull some lateral movement, you can see the gun aiming ahead of my aim point. It's usually not this extreme, of course, I'm moving very quickly, but the whole turret is turning farther than my gunner's input is telling it to, and the sight is countering that so that I don't see that exaggerated turn with my reticle. If you were sitting in this tank, you would feel the whole turret turning at the rate that gun barrel is, but your vision would be smooth, matching your inputs. So in the Soviet 1A33 system, that's what this fire control system's called, on the T-80B and T-64B, you do the same procedure as the American ones. You track for a couple of seconds, you laze, you fire. But it's just a lot more user-friendly because it does not show you any reticle drift. It hides all those details from you. It works the same way though. So very important, no matter which auto lead tank you are using, whether it's Abrams, M60, or the B model Soviet tanks, you always do the same thing. Dump lead in between your targets, track your target, lays, fire. And I got a bad track, so I missed. Or rather, the target changed speed. So let's do it again. Track, lays, fire. And that's a hit. Hopefully this is illuminating. Thanks for watching.